Hello, fermented folks.
We have P. Jelly Clark.
All Makatsu.
We have Travis Baldry.
Today we have a really special guest, Leopoldo Gout.
Are you reeling it in and defending clowns?
I am. Earth doesn't even exist in Battlestar Galactica.
This show me heartburn. I was like, I loves it, I hate it.
It's called All Fluff.
Oh!
If you didn't know how I actually feel about The Mandalorian,
Don't worry.
this is it right here.
Yeah.
Hello, fermented folks, and welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the show where we drink beer together as we debate the best movies, books, and shows in the genre fiction realm with our distinguished guests. Said distinguished guest tonight is author, filmmaker, and Dark Sith Lord, possibly, Joshua Millican. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show. How you doing, man?
Thank you. I'm doing well. You know, I don't make films. I've been in some films. So, film guy.
Occasional film employee. That works for us too. What, you've been in a couple films as an actor. I know you've done some writing for novelizations and stuff too.
Yeah. Have you guys seen Cannibal Comedian?
I have not, but it sounds like I should.
It's on Screenbox. You know, yeah. At one point, it was number 2 on Screenbox, just right behind the most recent Terrifier release. So
nice.
I play a character named Stoner Bro in Cannibal Comedian. I'm in The Gingerweed Man, uncredited, but you know the Gingerweed man rolls up to me on his little motorcycle, and he's got a bazooka full of weed on his shoulder, and he shoots me like a quarter of weed, and I grab the weed, and I smell it, and I'm all, thanks, Gingerweed Man, but without any time, you know. So those are 2 of my biggest hits. I'm in Bloody Bridget, which is still kind of doing the festival circuit. Cool. I did an Australian film filmed in America called An American Masquerade, where I played a meth head pimp. So, you know, I've done a thing or 2.
Right on. Have you exclusively played? Yeah, I was going to say, have you pretty exclusively played that drug dealer or drug addict character?
You know, I do get typecast from time to time because, I do carry that vibe. You know, you'd have to be deaf not to know that, like, I'm from Southern California and I've got that, like, stoner essence. So, yeah. You know, I also had a show, Chronic Horror, which was like a talk show. So people are like, oh, he's the funny weed guy. Let's get him to cameo in our movie.
You do have the perfect voice for it, man. And we're glad you're lending that voice to our show this evening.
So fun.
For those of you out there, if you haven't been to Fermented Fiction before, welcome. We always start the show with a round of personal updates and intros of the hosts, and then we'll let Josh introduce himself and his most recent work. So I'm Claver Mullum. I'm a horror author from the Pacific Northwest, just like Josh writes some of that Pacific Northwest gothic shit these days. But yeah, my personal update is I'm going to remind everybody, because we have some new listeners I can see, that my newest book, Cairn, is out, and that is a story about those the adventure leaves behind in my rock climbing horror trilogy. So definitely go check that out through Dark Forest Press if you like that combination of adventure and horror and like grief and psychological elements weaving their way through both of those things. Yeah, that's us. Jeremy, I'm going to let you take the StokerCon update because it was your first time. But who are you and how was StokerCon?
Hi, America. I am a harmless weirdo who just returned from our first foray as a podcast to StokerCon, and it was dope. It was so cool. I wish some of the people we met were jerks, so I could be like, oh, most people were great, but that person's a jerk. But no, they were all nice.
Those bastards.
If anything, they're all jerks for being so nice the whole time. Yeah. But no, it was so good, and if it was even a single day longer, I would probably have died. Yeah.
There's no probably about that. We went pretty hard. StokerCon, for those of you who don't know, it's a huge convention for horror authors all around the world. They give out the Bram Stoker Award there, which is one of the bigger, more recognized awards in horror writing. And speaking of horror writing, Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about the horror you've written and about your new book, Dopefoot? We're all excited to check it out.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations, you guys, on going to StokerCon. I know that it was a really great one this year. I wasn't there. I didn't even go to the virtual one, but I did stream the awards ceremony, and I could really feel that the energy was different this year. So, congratulations on being there. It was beyond fear of missing out because I knew I was missing out, but at the same time, I was able to kind of bridge the vastness and really pick up on some of the energy. Yeah, I'm Joshua Millican. I've been part of the Horror Writers Association since about 2022. And my latest release coming out on June 16th will be Dopefoot, a gory cryptid mystery set in the Pacific Northwest. I love everything you were just talking about, Clay, with your rock climbing horror trilogy. I love that motif. Just sounds so great because it's so fraught with intensity from the get-go. I can't wait to learn more about it and dive in. Dopefoot is geo-locked in the Pacific Northwest, like some other great books I've been reading lately. Part of maybe a new movement that I've heard called Redwood Gothic.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for people to check it out. It's been getting some really great early reviews, and you can own it on June 16th.
Hell yeah, man. Well, if you have any ARCs left floating around, I'd love to trade you a book for book and give it a read.
Yeah.
Because I fucking love the Redwoods. That is a mystical, crazy place. You can feel like the primordial energy there, that it's just like, this place is so fucking old that I am uncomfortable, but I'm also inspired at the same time. It's so cool there.
Triggering. It is triggering. You don't believe in Bigfoot or anything really beyond what you know until you are in that kind of environment, and you might as well be in another world.
Yeah. I feel like it's about as close as you can get to being like in the middle of the ocean on land. Like you see those trees, and it puts into perspective everything you believe about the world and how little, and lets you really grasp like how little that actually is. Basically, fucking nothing.
Nothing. And just to remind people too, I mean, redwoods only grow naturally in one place in the entire world, and that is Northern California into Canada. So this is a very specific region. It is, there's lots of great forest horror, dark forest. Is that the name of your publisher? I love it. The Pacific Northwest, this forest is its own shade of dark, a darker shade of dark forest horror. So I'm really stoked we have that connection, and I'm stoked to talk it up along with our film and our fun times.
Yeah,
man.
Hell yeah, brother. We can form a whole nother connection, and we'll see how that connection goes, depending on our varying opinions on The Mist. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to get into our debate segment. So those of you who may not know, for this segment, we're going to have a 10-minute debate. It's going to be me representing Fermented Fiction, Josh representing the literary realm. Jeremy will have us on the timer. We're going to roll 2 D20s. The high roll will debate for The Mist, as in The Mist is fucking awesome, no matter what we actually think. And the low roll will debate that The Mist sucks. And then afterwards, we will talk about how we actually feel and do a panel discussion for another hour or so after the 5-minute break. Josh, are you ready to roll that dice?
I'm ready. Let's put it in fate's hands.
Do it. The dice gods, will they favor Josh Millican tonight?
Who knows?
Well, they might have. They did not favor me. I rolled a 3. What did you roll?
Oh, am I supposed to actually be holding a die?
If not, I can get you.
Josh was also cast on this show as our resident stoner guy.
Right.
Killing it.
Jesus Christ.
So good.
My goodness. Is there any way Jeremy could like roll on my behalf?
Oh, yeah.
as a
Yeah, we
neutral
got you,
party?
man.
Yeah, I got you, man. Ooh. Well, hey, you did better than Clay's 3 with an
Boom.
8.
An 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Josh. So that means you are arguing that the mist kicks ass. I will be arguing that the mist sucks. And you will start. Jeremy, go ahead and count us in.
Hell yeah. Let's get after it. No need to be nice, but also no need to be mean, if you know what I'm saying. Follow your heart.
I do.
Into the
I
mist
do.
or away from it. Whatevs. But we're going to get it started in 3, 2, 1, go.
Am I going first here?
Yes, sir.
So The Mist is one of the top 3 horror films of the 21st century, hands down. It is very close to impeccable. There are things about it that haven't quite stood the test of time. But in general, The Mist will endure as one of the most elite films of the 21st century, more specifically the early aughts, the first 10 years. Its influence will be felt for decades to come. There will be college courses taught specifically on The Mist. Now, The Mist has also influenced me incredibly as an author. What The Mist did for me was it proved that it is much more important to have an impactful ending than a happy ending. There's such a desire to tie things up. There's such a desire to give the audience what they want in terms of rewarding the characters for their struggles. What The Mist proved to me, what Frank Darabont in his absolutely brave directing proved to me, was that a much better ending is one that is going to stick with you. Yes, that ending, if you've seen The Mist, you know that ending. And it's divisive. And there are people who will say they hate The Mist specifically because of that ending. Here's the thing. I've seen thousands of horror films, maybe tens of thousands. And I can remember the endings of maybe 10. Like if you randomly say, like, have you seen Ghost Ship? I'll be like, yeah, I've seen Ghost Ship. How does it end? I have no idea. Have you seen The Ruins? Yeah, I saw The Ruins. How does it end? I have no idea. How did Hostel end? I have no idea. Millions of movies. How did The Mist end? I will never forget it. And there are only so many films that will do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the ending is more than just let me stomp on your heart, let me hurt you, let me as the filmmaker hurt you. The ending is much deeper than it seems. It is not simply done for shock value, and there are thematic reasons behind it. There are threads you can follow from the very beginning that not only justify the ending but make it seem almost inevitable. And when you look at the ending as something that was almost destined, you notice things about the film earlier on that really suggest that it had to be this way and that it wasn't a coincidence that the mist lifted at this moment. It was connected. The mist lifted at that moment because the Father sacrificed his only son as a perhaps a biblical display. Something we've seen before, where God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son to show that he believes. Of course, in the case of the mist, is perverted because the Father did not willingly give his son out of belief. The Father did what he did in order to save the son from what he perceived as a horrible fate. So it wasn't done out of belief. And then you start thinking about that, okay, that's cool to bring in this biblical what if. look at the fact that Miss Carmody, the villain of the Mist, said that the son must die, said that God told her the son must die. That was when the escapees left. They thought they knew better, but perhaps they didn't. You know, is this a God movie? I don't know. What I'm saying is it plays into so many different tropes. We have this biblical resonance, and then we have a perversion of it. It's a twisting of the Abraham and Isaac story from the Bible. Now, what did the Father do to deserve this? We want to think that, you know, our authors and our directors don't torture good people needlessly. What did the Father do to deserve this, to be the one who must sacrifice what he loves most?
We could start with his acting performance. He hurt a lot of people with that, Josh, and we were all subjected to watching the character work in this film clumsily stumble its way to this conclusion, which I will grant is awesome. It is the one thing I remembered from The Mist, and why, when you suggested it, I was like, yes, I'm so excited. That's such a good movie, and I can't wait to rewatch it because I remember it being pretty kick-ass. And then I remembered that the only good part of The Mist is the fucking ending, because finally we don't have to watch it anymore. Boy, I can poke a million holes like the glass of this grocery store window that was only 1/8 covered with fucking dog food. And can we talk about the ramparts in the dog food? That was so fucking funny to me. Like, why are they doing ramparts in the dog food? All they have to do is stand up and they can see over it. And that is just one of like 1,000 plot holes in this movie. Why doesn't the mist come under the door? Why doesn't the mist come into the punctures in the window? And there's everything you're talking about is certainly in there. Like, the thing I like about The Mist is the concept. I think the Stephen King story set them up for all the story arcs and all the story positioning that they needed. But there's too many characters, man. It's got like a million too many characters. We really don't get actually attached to any of them. There's no real character development throughout the entire film. I don't feel like any of the characters had much of an arc at all. Basically, the father's arc the entire time is just to sort of like bumble his way through. I don't understand why he becomes the de facto hero. They set him up early on as if he's sort of an outcast in the town. But he never gives anybody a solid reason to follow him. In fact, all I ever see him give them is a reason not to follow him. Like when he comes out to tell everybody about the tentacle, nobody believes him. They don't want to go back and look. And that doesn't make sense either, because they're all afraid to go outside. They're all afraid of this mist. They all have watched multiple people vanish, but yet they're not willing to go back as a big group in the store to like confirm that maybe there's proof of what's going on outside. It makes no fucking sense. So there's just instance after instance of this in the movie. Like, how many times does he give his kid to a random person that he like doesn't even really seem to like? Like, he's got this dispute with his neighbor, but they drive to town together, and the first thing he does is like, here, neighbor, take my kid. We're cool. Like, just, walk him into the store, and I'm going to handle this over here. And then they go inside, and then they hate each other again once the mist thing starts up. And then, like, we've got this religious dispute, and all that makes sense. Like, that's the symbolism around which the movie is built. It is the justification for the large cast, because you need your mob mentality. Otherwise, the threat of the cult leader, of the false prophets, of Miss Carmody, like, that doesn't carry any weight if she doesn't have the mob behind her. And if you had less people, A, you would have had to actually develop them, and that is harder writing. And B, you would have had to do a lot more work to justify why they turn on each other. And you don't have to do that as much when you have this mob mentality. And I think the movie leans on that a little too much. It's a little ham-fisted with its symbolism and its metaphor. And though I agree it does follow through well at the end, and all of that kind of adds up nicely, this movie is a classic example of trying to do way too many things with a single feature length runtime, and an early aughts runtime at that. Maybe if they had like the modern runtime of like 2.5 hours and people were signing up for that, like Flanagan is about to have when he redoes this movie, that would be one thing. But with this 90-minute or whatever it was runtime, they simply did not have nearly enough time to develop any characters or to hash out most of the things that they set up in the film. Like,
I can agree with that. I can agree with a lot of that. My main argument, though, is that The Mist is not a movie that is intended to be watched only once. Of course, they pack so much into it. You can't even put all the pieces together while it's happening. I think Darabont kind of banks on the fact that you're going to need to go back and be like, how did this even happen? And fundamentally, I think, I would say that a lot of your specific constructive observations, critiques are very valid. I don't think the father is set up to be a hero in the slightest. I think he is doomed from the very beginning.
But I just mean the characters then treat him like one.
And I think, shut up, because we're done. You did it.
Yes.
Excellent work, everybody.
Well done. Well done, Josh.
Awesome.
Absolutely
That's
done
our
it.
debate. We've done it. And now we get to break huddle here, and we get to talk about what we actually think. And we usually do start with our dissenters, but before we do that, we're going to do our beer of the week. Did everybody bring a beer of the week? Jeremy, do you got something that you're drinking down there?
Well, not a beer as such, but in honor of StokerCon, I did bust out my special occasion whiskey. This
Beautiful.
12-year-old Woodinville whiskey bourbon, and I'm just going to be sipping on that.
Nice.
But,
Doing that thing neat,
no
too.
thematic. I'm just being happy.
Nice. You've earned it. You've earned it. In honor of StokerCon, I'm not drinking shit because I drank way too much at StokerCon for 4 days straight. And I will be smoking my little vape pen. And then once we take our 5-minute break, in honor of Josh, I'm going to go out on my porch and smoke a little bit of weed as well. And then I'll come back a little higher than you see me now. Because, I think we should be on the same level, my friend. Josh, how about you? What are you enjoying tonight?
Yeah, I'm also vaping my beer tonight. This
Nice.
is a blend of Trainwreck and Blue Dream, some classic strains that have always served me well, and they also do well as a hybrid. I'm pairing it with some chilled tap water. It goes nicely. It's a nice remedy for the cotton mouth and keeps me focused.
Ooh, yeah.
Hell yeah. The classical Blue
Absolutely
Dolphin
stunning.
keeps you hydrated, keeps the vocal cords loose. We appreciate the hell out of that for sure.
Absolutely.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's get into what we actually think. I will start because I went against it, and then Josh will go to you to see if you really do believe what you said. When it comes to me, I am not really lying about The Mist. I do think there's a lot of plot holes in this movie that do drive me a little bit crazy. There's way too many characters, and I am one of those people who I really want to relate to my characters in my fiction, and I find if I don't have a close relationship of some kind with at least a couple of the principal characters, I'm going to have a hard time feeling the tension that the movie wants me to feel. And I did feel that in this movie because never did I really connect with anyone enough to care if they died. Like, I know I supposed to care about the dad, but honestly, if I'm sort of being expected to care by the movie because of like some basic thing, like for example, I feel like I'm just automatically supposed to care about the kid. I don't. I'm sorry. I know this kid is a fictional character, so I don't fucking care that he's a kid any more than the woman in the store or the man in the store. I need to like get to know the kid a little bit. I need to develop some kind of empathy for him and his position. And again, a lot of that feels like the movie expects it to be sort of automatic. I think there's a couple different kinds of stories, right? There's stories that are more about their world. There's stories that are more about their concept. And then sometimes the setting or the characters in a concept movie like this one can kind of take a little bit of a back seat. But this movie is really more concerned with getting its message across about humanity and kind of I felt like a little bit browbeating me with the metaphorical symbolism of, you know, oh, this is how people behave. Oh, this is like cynical view of humanity. And, you know, I'm a relatively cynical dude. I can agree with all of the points that the movie is making. They just don't hit me as impactfully because I don't have any close relationships with any of the characters. So I don't really care if they die. I don't really care if this whole town dies. Everybody's an asshole in this town. Like, they're all pricks to each other, and I don't understand why it has to be that way. Like, you've got like your blue collar people that don't like your main character because he's a writer or an artist, right? And then you've got like the very clear separation of the people of color. Like, they pretty much all leave the store and all get killed at the same time. That wasn't a great look, 2007. And then we've got wild. I couldn't believe it when like all the BIPOC characters walked out at the same time. I was like, all right, it's a different time. But so there, you know, there's that issue. And then there's, again, it's just like a little bit on the nose for me. Like, her name's Camedy, right? I just watched it the other day. I'm just bad at character names. Yeah, Camedy. She never has a point where she changes, right? There's never a point where she starts to ramp up and become more fanatical. She's just sort of like fanatical from the jump. And I kind of felt that way about most of the characters. Like, even the main characters, they were kind of just the same state the whole time. Like, he's like trying to make a plan and figure out how to get his kid and figure out how to go back to their mother, but kind of too afraid to leave the store. And that was sort of his base setting. And he never really grew or developed from that, in my opinion, until the end. Like, the ending of that movie is truly a great ending. I love your point about that, Josh. Like, so many of my, even my favorite movies, like I have forgotten so many endings as to like what are the exact details, but I can remember like the exact details of a select few movies. Like, I know exactly how Jurassic Park ends, you know, but I definitely forget the endings of lots of movies I really love. Like, honestly, I love The Lighthouse, and sometimes I have a hard time remembering exactly how that ends because it's really weird. I get it mixed up with other sequences in the movie, but this movie, when I think of The Mist, the first thing I think of is that scene in the car, and it's so heartbreaking and like tragic. It just goes so fucking hard because it happens literal moments before he would have been rescued. But then you bring up an interesting point too of like, would he have been rescued at all were that not the case, right? And and it leaves us asking that question, which to me makes it a really powerful ending. So I think this movie is actually really brilliant as a cosmic horror story in terms of the way it approaches isolation horror, the way it analyzes human dynamics, and the way it utilizes that to further isolate our characters. I'm a huge isolation horror fan, and I think I have a feeling you agree with me on that, Josh. But it's one of my favorite subgenres because there's nowhere where we're more vulnerable and more prone to our darkest thoughts and our darkest nature is when we're isolated away from our other communities. And there could be geographic isolation, like in our books that take place in the middle of the woods or on top of mountains. But just as terrifying is social isolation amongst society. And this movie is a great example of how terrifying that can be. Like, this is this is a few groups of people all being isolated at the same time by the dynamics of the society around them because of the intense amount of pressure being put on them by a completely uncontrollable and incomprehensible force. And if that's not sort of a diatribe on like religion as a whole and what it can do to people, to the human mind in the wrong circumstances, then I don't know what is. So it does that pretty well, you know? So there's a lot to like. I'm not trying to just shit on this movie wholesale, but objectively, it no longer is my kind of movie. When I was a kid, I fucking loved it. Like, you know, if you're a teen, I mean, I think I was 15 when I saw this movie. So, I mean, it couldn't have been more directly aimed at my demographic. Like, hey, do you want giant squid creatures and guns and flaming mops and fucking dog food ramparts and fucking acid web spiders? Let's go. You know, this movie has something for you. It has everything you could want. But yeah, I have a hard time getting past this sort of shallowness of the character depth that's pretty prevalent throughout the entire cast. And then I can't not see how big the cast is. Like, and I could say so many examples, like the kissing scene. That scene makes no fucking sense. It's like they were on set and they were like, oh shit, we don't have any sex in this movie. Who are the hottest two people? Okay, those are the hottest two people. We'll give them a little glance earlier in the movie, and then we'll have them do this weird kissing scene where the girl makes the move, and then she's like, not like this. And he's like, you know? And they did that to manufacture tension because they knew they didn't have enough character work, and they knew they needed to kill some people in the next battle, and that they needed to like try to make us care about a couple of the people they planned to kill, and then they kill her first, right? Lo and behold. Also, why did none of the military people fucking help at all? Like, I get that they were trying to bail out of town. Love that. That's great. It's great foreshadowing. And early in the movie, I really liked it. I was like, oh, that's scary. You know, like the people trying to leave in the military. They talked about this classic Stephen King shit. Oh, there's military over there. Watch out for that. And then the military people are trying to get out of town. It's like one of the first things you see about them, right? But then when they're like, does anyone have a gun or know how to use one? There's one guy, and it's like, oh, nerdiest guy in the supermarket, what's up? Instead of the three fucking military guys. There's no way they don't know how to shoot a gun. Like, or have guns, by the way.
There's that MP there. He should have had a gun.
I know. And there's a military vehicle within sight of the window for most of the movie, but they're like, no, let's not go to that military Humvee. I'm sure it's completely washed and useless. Let's go to this guy's truck that's at the back end of the parking lot instead. And yeah, so there's a lot of plot holes and things like that drove me a little crazy. The one about the mist not coming through the door, I actually don't agree with that one. I think that was very intentional, and because when they open the door, it doesn't roll in. So clearly the mist is more supernatural in that regard. Like, doorways actually do protect you from the mist, and that's interesting. That's like you have to let the cosmic horror in some regard before it can actually attack you. So that kind of stuff, it does a lot of cool little stuff like that. I just think it built its world, and it didn't really care about the characters within it, and that made it hard for me to enjoy. But that's objective. I could still see why people would totally love The Mist. Josh, did you truly totally love The Mist?
No, I hated it. I think it's one of the...
Yes.
No, I mean, obviously, a lot of what I said is very true. It's one of the most enduring films that I've seen in decades, and as kind of like an older film aficionado, I think it is destined to be really revered. Why didn't the Army guys do anything? Because it's very intentional. After 9/11, society kind of shifted in terms of the belief that our government could help us.
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't the Army step up and save them? Well, because it's not just them. It's not that these three soldiers couldn't help. It's that the entirety of the U.S. government could not do anything to help them. So they represented, you would assume that they would step up. It's not that it's just these three shits can't get their act together. It's that the entire infrastructure is not coming to help you. And that's why they don't do anything. And not to get into a point by point rebuttal, because a lot of what you're saying is very valid. The Mist
by all means,
it hits differently now. It hits different now, a couple decades, almost 2 decades after its release than it did at the time. I was really into the tentacles and the spiders and the tension of it and this cult and this mob mentality. Why so many characters? A lot of these isolation horror will have just, five. Five's like a good number for a cabin in the woods type thing. A lot of those isolation horror films and setups, they put people into really general archetypes. And as a reader, you're supposed to say, I would have been him, or I would have been him, or I would have been him. The truth is, you don't know how you're going to act when you're in that kind of situation. And having all these characters, I think, gives the reader / viewer, would I do that? Would I do that? Would I change like that? Okay, I certainly wouldn't be that person. Oh, wait, would I be kind of like that person? It gives a lot more nuance to finding yourself among these people. And yeah, you know, why have the little affair, except that there was an affair in the novella that the film is based on between those two characters. They do have
Right.
history that simply was never, you know, unpacked in the film. But I think that there was a reason that it had a really strong cast. Now, in terms of, you know, it is what it is, and it's great for what it did. For me, I don't think it packed too much. I don't think it overstepped its bounds. The more I watch it, the more I realize it is a very simple film with a very simple message. And the more I think about, you know, what's the most enduring moment? Is it the tentacles? Is it this impossibly large beast, you know, walking across the road to the point where the whole, you know, cars are, you know, pulling. I don't even know exactly where I was going with this, but you know, a lot of great moments. And yeah, it becomes, you know, a very simple thing. I know what I was going to say. One of the most interesting things to me as I get older with The Mist and as I revisit it is one of the most interesting aspects of the story is the story that we did not see. And when I talk about that, it ties into my belief that it is not this complex story that's trying to add too much. It is a very simple story. I kind of hinted at it before. You know, why do I keep calling him the father? What's the character's name? You know, why
He
can't
may not have one. I don't know.
I know, right? At this point,
Who could say?
You know, why does he deserve? Why did this happen? And it's true. He does deserve it. And it happened very early on. And it has to do with what he did to another character who doesn't have another name. The woman who asked him to help her find her children, to leave the store, to venture out into the unknown, to help her with her children. Why didn't father do it? Well, he has to help his own child. And hey, sorry, lady, it's all of us. That is his fatal flaw. He stopped being a member of a community way too soon and got into this like insulated survival mode. And whether you're talking about fate or a deity now punishing him, that is the perversion of the Abraham Isaac. And as we know from the very end, one of the things that is also burned into my mind about that ending, when the mist lifts and he sees the saviors coming through with their flame torches and the creatures are all on the retreat, who does he see on the bus with the other rescued survivors? The woman who he would not help get home to her children. Not only did she survive, her children survived. And if he had gone with her, taken his own son with him, been like, you know what? We're the same. I shouldn't be closing her out right now. I shouldn't be thinking about this doom and gloom scenario that it's eventually going to come down to me or them. I need to remain human in this moment. And he did not. He was greedy. All of them were greedy in their ways. But it was his story. It was the father's story. And he did not go with the woman. And if he had, The Mist is an entire different story. And it's potentially a better story. And, you know, that's kind of what I think about in terms of, okay, we've got this remake coming up. What's it going to be? Is it going to be a rehash? I would love it if they got Melissa McBride and did not a sequel, not a prequel, but a paraquel. Show us what happened in that moment. Maybe even set it up the same thing, except instead of starting with the Father's Day in the storm, it starts with her day before the storm. And she's about to leave to go to the store. And her kids say, don't go, Mom. You know, I'm just going to be right back. We just need a few supplies. You know, don't leave us. But she leaves. And she's struck with guilt. She shouldn't have left the kids. Oh, man. I want to see that film.
You hear that, Mike?
If you're listening, bring me on as a creative consultant. Even if that's not what this remake is. Let's keep The Mist going and bring back the woman without a name, the woman who went home for her children, because she has become my favorite character throughout this entire, you know, as I've evolved with the Mist film.
I love that. And I mean, ironically, by leaving so early, she has probably one of the most definitive arcs in the whole film, because I do genuinely believe most of the characters kind of get stuck where they start. And they don't progress a whole lot. Like, you see a progression towards, either mob mentality or trying to reclaim community, which ends up being like 5 people, right? And everybody else goes with the mob side because it's easier to lean into that fear than it is to take the courageous step to leave the grocery store and to go try and find your own people again and to try to
step
escape.
into the unknown. Like we're
Yeah.
willing to descend into, we're willing to devolve before we face something unknown. And it's
Right.
that's the mistake. You know,
Yep.
it's not better to go backwards. It's better to face the unknown. Either way, you're pushing forward.
Yeah, but we will cling to contentment and resist change at all fucking costs. If
That's
there's
right.
one thing we've learned about humanity.
Yeah.
And I do too love that scene with the woman, just to tie a bow on that. But that scene is great in the film for creating horror tension because she does walk in and it's one of the first times you don't hear like a scream or see like some blood go flying or something. It's like she walks in and you don't hear anything, and it actually sets up that thought of like, oh, maybe we could leave for everybody else in the grocery store. And that's completely necessary. Like if she just died too, then maybe they would have went back and looked at the tentacle because they would have been completely unified in this proof that, yeah, okay, nobody can leave. Like one person did and they died, but one person did and they didn't. So that's a 50-50 shot as far as what they've seen firsthand. And then they have to wonder if they're doing the right thing, right? And that was brilliant. It created a lot of good early tension that,
Yeah.
you know,
You do kind of need that.
yeah, you kind of need that. Jeremy, what did you think about this movie? I have no earthly idea if you liked it or not. It's got a lot of plot holes, so I have my predictions.
You know, it does have that. I think the way I would go on this movie, because I do remember seeing it when I was younger, and then I watched it and I was like, okay, this is kind of about what 20 years between viewings will do to a memory. Well, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's, for the most part, pretty competent. I enjoy the sort of tension building. I love seeing a bigger group just getting like whittled down to its barest things. It's great for tension and all that. I think the dialogue a lot of the times feels like really forced, kind of out there, and this is nothing totally about the characters. It's more about, you know, Stephen King having this pretty bleak worldview at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, it's pretty good. You know, it's that classic Stephen King thing of a, well, usually it's a writer, but in this case, an artist with personal problems, being haunted by an unknowable evil in small town America. You know, classic Stephen King.
True.
I mean, the ending is cool and memorable, right? Even though it always does bug me, and it probably bugs the dad once he's out of there. It's like, if that guy had taken like a difficult shit that day, his kid would have survived. So
Not
there's
necessarily.
that to think about. Not necessarily,
because we do go back to his home later and see that he actually would not have survived if he had a difficult shit that day and not gone to the store.
Or like a difficult shit while he was at the store. You know,
Maybe,
he'd been delayed a few minutes. Like,
Does that poke something of a hole in what we just talked about earlier, though? Like how the mist doesn't come into the back room of the grocery store, but it was able to get into his house through the hole in his window. Is that only because the hole was attached to symbolism? Is that how that works?
You know, it's hard to say. You know, I think that the mist, the tentacled beast was really large. I think the creatures travel within the mist. The tentacled beast was really large, and if it needed to be in some manner within the mist as part of its interdimensional transition, it makes sense that he couldn't move it all in. It's almost like he's a astronaut and this is his spacesuit. The spiders could definitely go through a window that was broken, you know, bringing the mist in with them as they go. So a couple other things I want to mention, just as we are tying a bow on it. You know, one of the things that I will admit as a huge proponent of the film, is that the special effects don't hold up, and it's such a bummer.
Yeah.
Because
They don't.
special effects have come such a long
Yeah.
way, and at first they're forgivable, and now it's like, all right, they're downright bad. But there is a little bit of a remedy to it. On DVD or Blu-ray, you can find a black and white version of The Mist, and it's not just a band-aid, it's a fix. It's a different experience. It's more of a noir experience, but it is the perfect antidote for that awful, not quite 3D CGI, because all of a sudden everything is put into a consistent grayscale black and white environment, so there isn't the obvious differentiation between the digital and the real. It doesn't quite fix them. It doesn't make them look practical, but it is a way to re-immerse yourself in the experience without just kind of like giving up on it, because one of the most crucial aspects of it didn't evolve.
Yeah, and I do have to say, to me, like, I was willing to forgive the looks of the creatures and stuff a little bit more. What made it difficult for me to watch in terms of watching it as an old CGI, like a stab at CGI when it was first kind of getting going at this level, right? Was the acting around it. You could tell it was hard for the actors to do it. Like the fight scenes were pretty clunky, and like you could tell they were kind of like, I felt like they had to be told like, okay, no, the tentacle's right there. You have to jump over the tentacle.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it was a little bit clunky.
Totally there. Well, one other thing I do want to say, just in defense of dialogue, Miss Carmody or Carmody, however you pronounce it, there's the amazing moment where the female protagonist cross paths with her as she's praying in the bathroom, and it seems like she's been caught in a moment of human vulnerability. And the protagonist is like, I'm here if you need a friend. And do you remember her response? Next time I need a friend like you, I'll squat down and shit one out. How can you say that this isn't A+ dialogue, my friend?
I know, it's so good. That's so good. And it comes so right after. It's like, if I can save even one person.
Yeah.
Then one person shows up just like, get fucked.
She's one of my favorite Stephen King villains. I love her. She is so, Marcia Gay Hardy. She is a wonderful actress. And she's another thing that I appreciate about the film every time I watch it. I think she's great. It's an archetype. It's a little bit two-dimensional. A lot of them are. But you know what? If you can slay it, then you're elevated. You're not showing us a cult leader we've never seen before, but you're doing it better than 99% of them. So, A+, or at least A.
Yeah. I do love what you just said there too, Jeremy, about that. It is perfectly paired, perfectly timed with the prayer she was doing there, as if what she really cares about is to save people. She doesn't give a shit about saving people. She wants to fulfill her prophet complex that she's always believed was true. And this is her fucking chance. And
this
you know what?
Moment to shine.
Let's give it to Carmody. Like, she saw her moment and she took it. Not everybody does that in life, do they, Josh?
Yeah.
A lot of people.
She saw her moment. She saw her entrance. She's like, it's my time. This is me. This is my moment.
A lot of people get the mom spaghetti on their sweatshirt and they call it a night. They don't go out and do the concert anyway. But there's Carmody, there's Eminem, there's the people out there that take the shot, and she fucking did it. So shout out to Carmody for going down in a blaze of glory in that fashion. Jeremy, did you have other stuff you want to say?
I mean, an intrusive thought occurred while watching this thing and seeing, creatures, pop out of the mist and get killed or whatever, and then kind of like dissolve or whatever. And I just keep thinking to myself, are these creatures from goddamn fairy tale?
They're the precursors. It's the same world, Jeremy.
It's everything.
The same world. This is the door that they opened.
I know.
Jeremy's feeling for fairy tale is well documented on another episode of Fermented Fiction. We don't need to get into it here.
That book is 60% good. It's just the front 60%.
Yeah. that is Jeremy's opinion, as we said. We certainly won't speak for anybody else on the program. But yeah, that's kind of our opinions on The Mist as a whole. We're going to take our 5-minute break, and when we come back, we'll do a panel discussion on this film. I've got a few questions inspired by Josh's answers, and I'm sure more will come up as we organically chat about this motherfucker. So everybody, go ahead and turn off your cameras, turn off your mics, and I'll throw up our 5-minute video. We'll see y'all on the other side. Thanks for being here and being Fermented folks with us. Hello, Fermented folks. Welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the first. And I believe it's season 4, the show where we drink beer and argue with each other and bring on really awesome creative guests.
If you'll permit me to go a little bit outside the box. Once upon a time, apparently, people used to sniff mummy remains, powdered mummy remains, like cocaine. So I think 3 lines of powdered mummy remains, if you can get to that as well. Yeah, that'll get you right to really enjoy the movie, you know?
Dave told us all about making a mead, and I talk shit about Tom Bombadil, as I am wont to do whenever people bring up Lord of the Rings.
You would. You should.
And then that's
everybody
exactly what he
freaking
made.
chill about Tom Bombadil, or I'll get unreasonably upset.
So, in your assessment, what did you think of the everyone kind of paired off, or at least a number of people did, romantically? How'd you feel about that? Did that seem really forced and dumb to you, or?
Tom Bombadil is a merry old fellow with his bright blue jacket and his boots are yellow. Right?
It's our yellow.
Right.
Imagine discovering mummy remains and oh my God, these ancient figures. Dude, what if we crushed this and snorted it, yo? I bet we'd get fucked up.
Let's talk for a moment about the fucking all-star cast in this movie. We have Ewan McGregor slaughtering it the entire time. Main character energy, top to bottom. You can't argue with it. Women want him, men want him. Everybody wants Ewan McGregor. Okay? If you don't agree with that, you're lying to yourself.
Apparently she had a backstory, but they cut it because she's very hard-nosed at the beginning. And then I will say another pro of this movie is their chemistry is hot. And I feel like if they didn't have that chemistry, I would have been ugh. Because she says at one point, she's oh, it's the apocalypse. What are we going to do? Fuck. And he's and then later when they are kissing, if they didn't have chemistry and if it was 2 lesser actors, I think it would have been an eye roll, felt cheesy, but you feel their bond.
The Langoliers themselves were originally going to be portrayed by puppets, and I think maybe they should have. Maybe they should have.
Dude, that's amazing.
There's no maybe about that.
And I wish that I could say that there was something greater happening here than the war diary of a broken man living as sort of this White Tower academic with all of his friends sitting inside the Eagle and Child drinking beer and pretending Magic Lion Jesus isn't really silly. Because, it is. If we can just all be very honest with each other.
The Lord's work out there. Good job.
I like to think that I am. Most people aren't big enough, but I am. I'm willing to step up.
Yeah. Dedicate that time. You're willing to dedicate that time.
The time, the money, all of it.
That was so painful. It's one of those painful things.
Oh, that was so
good.
That was so good. We've never been so savagely attacked by any author on their show. It's incredible.
See those things? Like, comment, subscribe. Those 3 actions you could be taking right now. You should be taking them right now, because you know what that is? That's being part of a community. Yeah. And if you're not a part of a community, the mist's gonna fucking kill you.
It's gonna eat you right up.
It'll eat you right up. It'll wrap you in some acidy spider webs, and it'll fucking chow on your corpse. Desiccate
You could be
that
taken
shit.
by any number of the tentacles from the violating tentacle monster.
That's right.
Or the devouring tentacle monster. You don't know which is which until it gets you.
Don't be Jim. Okay?
Don't be Jim.
Don't be Jim. Nobody should be Jim.
Never be
I
Jim.
hope that you don't, if you're seeing Jim in yourself, Josh has some Sasquatch. Is that Sasquatch? Is that our boy?
Where?
Oh, that you're holding.
Was there just
Yeah.
Did I just
Is
miss a
Squatch
Bigfoot
in there?
sighting? Was there a Bigfoot? Are you saying there was a Bigfoot sighting and I totally missed it?
I think so, bro.
Wow.
Yeah, them big ass
Shit.
feet were all over there.
Damn.
Oh my goodness. I'm
Damn,
a
bro.
big Bigfoot fan, so I've always got an eye out.
Yeah. You're in the neighborhood, right? He's
Exactly.
definitely in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
Where is Bigfoot in Dopefoot? That's why it's Dopefoot, right?
That's the question. Bigfoot's either real or it's a hoax or it's a misidentification. That's the central mystery. Or what if the answer is yes and no, or no and
Sure.
yes?
Schrodinger's cryptid.
I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm overstating it or overhyping it, but I wanted to write the best Bigfoot book ever. And I wanted
yeah.
it to be something that was going to be enjoyed by people who love Bigfoot and believe that Bigfoot is real. And just as much, I wanted it to be enjoyed by the people who are really skeptical and think there's no way in a million years that Bigfoot could possibly be real on any level. I want people who think that Bigfoot's cheesy to check it out and come away with an experience that they did not expect. Because at first, look, when I first set out to write a Bigfoot novel, I was like, this will be easy. It's got parameters, I just stick within here and here and here.
Yeah.
Something changed in me as I was writing it. This book became really special to me. This really is my great American novel. This is, the main character of my book, Dopefoot. He is my Holden Caulfield, even though he's a little bit older. He's a really immature dude in his early 20s. But it became something really awesome to me, and I wouldn't be hyping it this hard if I didn't really believe that people should check it out. It's gotten some really amazing non-biased reviews by people who have been given arcs in exchange for their honest reviews and thoughts. It's doing really well. Almost 30 reviews on Goodreads at the time of recording here. Solid 4.2 something 420 basically.
Nice.
It's just the perfect number for a book called Dopefoot.
No one else reviewed Josh's book, please. It's got to stay
Just-
420 forever.
Just keep rating it. What is it, like 8 4s for every 2 5s, and we'll
There
be
you
fine.
go.
Just
There we
keep
go.
keep
Yeah,
the ratio
yeah.
intact, please.
Okay,
so that we
do
can
that, do
always
that.
be at 420. Yes.
Well said. Well said. So, Josh, tell us the basic premise of Dopefoot since you're on the subject.
I would love to. So yeah, the main character is a college dropout who thought it would be fun to get a job on a cannabis farm, and trim weed and probably hang out with, good-looking hippie girls and listen to reggae music and eat good food and just have a nice time. So he kind of gets hooked up. We don't know all of it. We don't see any of this beforehand stuff. It starts, he's waiting at a rest stop to be picked up, for what he thinks is going to be a nice, fun, easy experience. He gets picked up by this meth head in this beat up pickup. So what's it about? A kid looking for an off the grid fantasy finds out that real life won't fit his it won't match his naive expectations. Wow. So he gets to this cannabis farm. He's going to have to work hard. He's going to have to watch his back. And he's also walked into essentially a war where this farm, sits kind of in between these dueling factions of smugglers and foreign mobsters who are all trying to corner the cannabis industry in this remote valley, which has a really wonderful, ideal ecosystem for growing this incredible cannabis that, anyway, you see where I'm going. All-out war. While all of this is going on, in the most dismal corners of this strange valley, darker forces are stirring. Something is there, screaming in the night, howling out in the night. The entire forest is a tinderbox on the verge of ignition. And if this main character is going to survive, he's going to have to face all of his worst nightmares, including some horrors that he couldn't have possibly imagined. Dopefoot is my Californian spin on dark woodland horror, Pacific Northwest anchored, redwoods, gothic. It's more than just a cryptid mystery. It is what makes our wilderness so unique and uniquely terrifying. Whether you believe in Bigfoot or you don't believe in Bigfoot, fear of Bigfoot is a very human reaction when placed in a very specific type of wilderness environment. These are some of the themes you're going to explore. There are some twists, there are some turns. Gonna zig when you're expecting me to zag. Gonna set up your expectations, pull the rug out from under you. It's not going to be the story you thought you wanted, but it's going to be better.
All right.
Hell
well, that
yes.
sounds great.
So you want my money like right now, or
yeah?
Well, I'm sorry. What was that?
So do you want my money right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, just real small plug. If you buy it directly from Maddox Media, who's my publisher, that puts the fewest people in between me and my royalties, and it gives the most return to my publisher, Maddox, Joey Powell, who has done a phenomenal job with. He didn't just sign Dopefoot to publish it. He didn't just support me. He did the cover art, which is insanely amazing. If you've seen it, if you haven't, you will. Dopefoot, the cover art is insane.
Nice. Yes. If you can ever buy from somebody's publisher, especially if they're with an indie press, always do that.
Makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. And indie publishers do a lot to support you behind the scenes that cost a lot of money. So going through them so they don't have to split royalties a third way makes a really big difference. Do that
Absolutely.
whenever you can. Like if you want to buy Karen, for instance, Dark Forest Press, Dark Forest Press, Bellingham. And we've showed our hand a little bit here, Josh, you and I, as authors who, we're podcasting right now. But we also have some books out there that we would really love you to check out and read. Sometimes you have to show your hand, but you never know if it's too early. When do you show, as somebody who writes cryptids that are sort of like obscured by the natural world and hidden within the vastness of it? Because again, you really are reminded of that when you go to the redwoods of like, damn, I couldn't see these trees from like Montana. Why? How is that possible? So it makes it all the more credible that these cryptids exist. So as somebody who sort of writes from that lens, I would argue the cosmic and interdimensional lenses kind of have a similar mystique and a similar reveal factor. Like if you're going to open a door to another dimension, every audience is going to be like, when do I get to see what's inside? Or when does it come inside? So when do you show the monster to kind of, and how do you figure that out? It's obviously not the same for every story, but so like, how do you think the Mist decided to show the monster when they did? And in your subjective opinion or objective opinion, in your opinion, your personal opinion, subjective, which do you think the Mist showed it too early, or do you think they showed it at just the right time?
Sure.
Or too late?
What I think the Mist did was the amount that it showed you was directly proportional to the size of these creatures. The larger a creature was, the more obscured it was from our view. So we got really good looks at the bugs, and we got really good looks at the pterodactyls, but the bigger and the spiders, but the crab, we didn't get quite as big a look as something that's about the size of a building. And the tentacle things, we still don't know what those tentacles were attached to. And even when we see the impossibly tall beast that defies the laws of physics, well, first of all, that's towards the very end, and it's like, well, can you show me something that's going to blow my mind? Okay, here you go, bam. And that amazingly really does kind of hold. That wasn't practical by any means. It has to have been computer generated, but
Mm-hmm.
the way they compress that with the mist effect, it doesn't look two-dimensional. It doesn't look green screened in a way that all of the things in the supermarket unfortunately did. So yeah, you know, I think that he showed too much in the sense that, you know, when we got a good look at these spiders and bugs and pterodactyls, they all looked a little bit silly. And that, you know, when you can obscure these things a little bit, it kind of, you know, your mind will fill in the blanks and make it scarier than what the technology of the age was able to express, you know. So in that sense, I would have, you know, kept them back to, you know, don't show anything that the technology can't convincingly convey. Even though, you know, the mist might have been top of the line at the time it was made, I just wish that, you know, there was some sort of artistic principle that just demanded that you don't show when it gets past the realm of plausibility, you know. So I do think that was the mistake with the smaller ones, because the crab thing was still very terrifying. The tentacle, while the tentacles looked weird, the idea of something beyond there is still in our minds as something more horrifying than, you know, ever could have been brought to screen. And the impossibly tall monster is just a real cherry on top. It's a real that's what earns the chef's kiss. You know, I think, you know, that coming in that montage with this, you know, what is it called? It's like the Ode to Seraphim or some crazy thing by Dead Can Dance. This wailing woman, she's singing in tongues. It's not even a real language, and it's like conveying this cosmic horror, religious horror, human horror. It's just so beautiful. From the moment when they get in that car and just drive into the mist, it's a wonderful merger of you know, build up, and you know, that's when it's showing you at a moment where it's built to it. It really deserves it. It's showing you in a way that doesn't feel beyond plausibility, or it does, but in a way that we want to accept because it looks so good, and our own minds can fill in the blanks. So, you know, in a sense, yeah, he showed too much too soon, because he should never have shown those little skull-headed spiders with the, you know, kind of like, you know, almost like spiky dreadlock hair appendages. You know, if he
those
had
guys knew how to mosh, though.
They did. They
definitely
and
knew how to
especially those pterodactyls. You know, interestingly though, if you go back and you read the novella The Mist, King is incredibly obscure with his descriptions. You know, I think the most concrete image he says is something was like a living kite, a living flying kite, which is so weird that he would talk about something in the sky that you wouldn't be able to see because of the mist. Maybe just the shape of it darting around up there. But, you know, he really, in the novella, he doesn't reveal too much. I don't think we see anything in the novella, you know, nearly as clear as, you know, Darabont gives us like a feast for the senses, but you can tire of it. You know, thankfully it does have this money shot at the end with the giant beast. You know, it works, but yeah, it showed too much. You know, I do kind of like at the very end, we're talking about the ending, when you kind of like it backs up and you get kind of like the landscape view. You do see some of these like burning spidery creatures, and those are practical somehow. These like things that are like, you know, casts that are made to look burned, and they've got like smoke bombs going off underneath them. That is like the closest to believably creepy I've seen of these little, because it's real and it's burned up and it's just chunks, and it's like, that's a perfect way to show it all. You know, you shouldn't be showing us this whole, you know, full body nude pterodactyl thing with X-wing wings. You know, when all we can do now is pick apart the fact that it's not aerodynamical. That thing couldn't fly at all. You know, I don't care what
the mist lets
it
fly, bro.
I guess so.
Yes, it's a nice thick mist.
Is the cloud that holds it up. But yeah,
right.
You know, again, you know, I'm a real proponent of the black and white version. If you can get your hands on it, I think you can only get it on a, you know, physical, it's a great argument for retaining the physical media.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's more than a Band-Aid. It's almost an elixir that really kind of it gives it all a Twilight Zone feel, where it's like, okay, yeah, they were only doing so much, but it suddenly belongs. It suddenly merges in an effective way. You do lose something, when you go black and white. Black and white hits different. It's more of a a noir, almost like there's a little bit of like a comic book element to it that Darabont really avoids, like a Sin City sort of thing, vibe that hits in the black and white version, where you're like, okay, graphic novel-esque, so if you like that, maybe enjoy that, but it is a different film, but to me, the fact that it exists is just it really is heartening, and knowing that allows me to still appreciate the Mist and Color.
Sure.
With all its warts,
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I would have liked to see a little bit less of monsters in general, and lived a lot longer in that fear of the knowing, that would have made the cosmic horror elements more terrifying. But I also think those smaller creatures do create the illusion for the characters that they can succeed. Whereas if you just leave it to tentacles darting from the mist that are also like sentient millipedes in their own right, that's going to be hard to convince me to go outside then. But if I start to think, oh, it's these little monsters, like we can kill, stuff is the size that we can kill, then you have that selfish willingness to go outside because you're justified of your safety to some degree, or justified of your chances. So it takes so much less courage than the first woman who was like, I don't give a fuck what's out there. My kids are out there. I'm going out there. If I die trying to save my kids, that's what happens. But I'm going for sure. And I mean, you can't hate on the main character too much. Like, that's definitely one of those positions where you should watch that and be like, I would probably do that as well. Like, if I had my kid with me, I'd be like, sorry, like, my kid's right here. I have to protect my kid.
Like, he's being totally justified at that point when he's seen two people go out in the mist. One of them exploded and one of them was basically ripped apart.
Certainly justified.
When it comes to cinema, it is very ethically unforgiving. You can make a fundamental fatal flaw, and as understandable as it is, it's kind of like, it's almost like, what's the name of that story? Those Who Leave Terra Bithida or something. You know what I'm talking about? I think I'm misstating it. It's the idea.
It sounds familiar.
It's the idea that there's utopia, but it all comes at the expense of one child being tortured every day. And it's like, you understand this, you see this now. So do you just be like, well, it's just one kid, and it's not my kid, so we're gonna stay? Or are you gonna be like, you know what? No, I'm out of here. And in that sense, it's the lack of ambiguity when it comes to the morality or the ethics of cinema. So, it doesn't matter that, that's not what all of us would have done. It doesn't matter that, of course, we understand why he doesn't. It seems so reflexive that he doesn't. Cinema as a moral judger, as the jury of how of characters' fates, is very unforgiving. And he turned his back on someone who was in his same position, on a fellow human being who he should have seen how the same they were, and how their fates were intertwined. Like the community needs to survive or fall together, or at least try, But,
I love all that in principle for sure. But I like a level of realism or believability, which again is why I think you have to start the engines with the monsters to ramp it up to the big money shot at the end. I do think it would have been slightly lessened for me if we had seen nothing but that money shot at the end, and done like that Cloverfield situation a little bit.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like wouldn't necessarily want to do that. But I do think that it was a little too early and a little too much. I think it could have been done just in a more impactful way that gave you more time to work with the characters, honestly, instead of them being attacked every 5 minutes. But what do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're both right. Like the mist, as seen in the film The Mist, and as described in Stephen King's The Mist, is an excellent cheat to keep to like show things but not have to show too much. And I think the tentacles kind of reaching in, wonky as it looks when that guy's trying to jump over them, and he's like, oh, that's just as high as he can jump, and that's where the tentacles. Okay.
Right.
But like, yeah, when you're being overrun by little bugs and pterodactyls and various creeping, chittering things, you could probably do a little less of that and have things be like just like even more effectively tense with just looming, upsetting figures in the middle distance, obscured in mist, and you're like, that's not the shape of anything that exists.
Yeah.
Oh God. And then your beehole tightens a little bit. Yeah.
Mine did.
Yeah. I think they could have used that really great cheat a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Sure.
It's great. It's a great way to put it.
Want to Cloverfield it.
Yeah, but it's a great way to put it. It gives you the perfect cover, literally, to work within. It didn't take full advantage of what The Mist was offering. I agree. I think you could have done a lot with a lot less, and it would have been more impactful. Maybe these like insects could have darted too fast to get a really good look at, puffing around a little bit. Like what are these things? Whoa, something just bounced off my head. What was that? Obviously I don't think they should have shown these pterodactyls at all, but maybe, big things, big clumsy things kind of like falling into the glass, that would have been great if we didn't get this, great look at it. And then, let's set it on fire. So it's glowing now. So you can see clearly how fake it is.
Just look right at it.
Also, that strategy was the wildest fucking strategy I've ever seen.
Like, let's light this mop on fire.
Let's fill this mop bucket
20 minutes
with gasoline. We're gonna fill
go
the mop
wrong
bucket.
in any way. Yeah, not dangerous in the slightest. Nothing can go wrong.
Have you rolled a shot? Have you ever rolled a mop bucket across a floor like a 2007 grocery store floor?
Yeah.
You saw that grocery store. That was your local grocery store.
Yeah.
That concrete is going to be all fucking covered in potholes and stuff. A full mop bucket of gasoline. That is the wildest thing I've ever seen.
Absolutely crazy.
And it does immediately light somebody right on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when you get an artist to be your leader, but for no other reason than like he saw it first.
Yeah, did he? I feel like they all kind of
No, it
saw
was that
it
guy
at the
that
same
ran
time.
in who saw it first, but he was the first person to corroborate. He's like, hey,
Right.
there's something crazy going on out there. And they're like, you have a degree. Don't shit on me. Like, what are you talking about? Bro, this is weird energy you're bringing in.
It is a weird energy. Jim did not like that college degree. But then again, Jim didn't like much.
He brought it up. Nobody else did.
I know. Nobody else said anything. I mean, the other guy was a lawyer, He had a degree as well. Why are we hating on our boy so much? So that's, I wanted to ask a follow-up question because I found that interesting what you were saying about character. How much as a writer do you think you're behoven to like observe the expectations of the reader or the viewer, of the character to do what the message of the movie is versus what they should do, what they might do if they were a real person. Like, how much do you have to balance? Like, you have to keep us engaged in the story as a sort of like overall product that we're consuming, right? As an overall piece of art. But you also have to keep us like feeling like we could see ourselves in there, or at the very least empathize with the position, no matter how extreme it is, right?
Right.
So like, that's a tricky balance to walk with characters. Like, how much does it matter to you if they seem like a real person, or do you more prefer they serve the plot? Or obviously it's a balance, but what makes a good character to you in those kind of regards? I hope that question makes sense.
No, sure. And if I may be so bold as to tie it back to Dopefoot, when I was writing this Bigfoot book, I knew from the get-go that this was going to succeed or fail, not based on the creature, but based on the characters. I knew that I would have to give characters that were at least as interesting or hopefully more interesting than the thing on the outside. So now in terms of being beholden to the readers and the expectations and should it be realistic versus creative almost, what boundaries should you establish for yourself in order to have this kind of relationship with your reader? No one likes to have you yank their chain. That's why everyone hates the it was all a dream sort of thing. That is a real insult, so you have to show them something realistic. Now, a good way to kind of like walk this line is to let the characters do the heavy lifting rather than create a situation that has to appease an expectation. You let the characters' reactions kind of set the destination. Now, no one likes to be led astray. So if you're going to zig when people expect you to zag, you at least have to make it worth it. Again, to bring it back to Dopefoot, there is kind of like a third act twist or a late second act twist that really kind of changes not only the trajectory, but the population of the story moving forward. It is no longer going to be what I'm sure my readers envisioned continuing until the end. A little bit of a flex. I had to make sure that it would be worth it. And I did have a friend of mine, an alpha beta reader, who was like, I was so pissed at you when you did that. You know what you did. And at first I was so pissed at you. But by the end, they were sold, because, it isn't the story. It isn't the Bigfoot story you want. It's the Bigfoot story you need. And it will, it will hit in that sense. So yeah, you have to treat your readers with respect. Like I was saying earlier, I don't want your actual belief or disbelief or skepticism in Bigfoot to affect your enjoyment of what I'm doing. I do, as much as I'm saying like, see if they can hang. If they can't hang, whatever, it's on them. No, I really want to have a relationship with my readers. I do want them to know through my work now, my previous work, that I've got your back, that I'm not giving you anything that I don't know you're going to handle. And, it might not be what you expected. It's really hard to be original. I don't know if I did anything Dopefoot that is original. I tried very hard to be innovative. And I think that is where I succeeded. Whether or not, Dopefoot continues to hit well with the critics, I've got my fingers crossed that this is the next viral sensation. But either way, it is what it is. It's in the hands of the universe from this point forward.
Oh yeah.
That it is. That it is. Jeremy?
I think you make a lot of good points there, and I think one of the things that that a lot of people don't think of is that you don't really want a character to be a real person all the time. And I think this could be one of my hotter takes, but like, because, you know, real person is like a really broad spectrum, and there are like there are a ton of ways that a real person can and will act, and plenty of those things that a real person is going to do isn't smart, realistic, or productive. That's just who real people are.
Right.
You know?
That's why they run upstairs instead of out the open door to safety.
True.
A real person isn't always going to act in their best interests or even in the best interests of the story. And so if you're trying to make a person be real, it can often be to the detriment of the story. You need more of like an emotional realism of like, ooh, this feels right. Like it feels like it could be a logical way for a person to behave, even though like it does happen to just kind of make the story happen.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. I do think you have to have a level of why is this story about your character, and in that way your character has to be extraordinary to some degree. But you also, I think the realism for me, it makes me relate to the character more, but it's way more in the portrayal than the action itself. Like if you show me a guy who has no reason to be good with a gun, be really shitty with a gun, and not know how to use it or even load it, right? I like that will relate me to the character. It can also at the same time increase the stakes and like sort of like inspire maybe doubt in the reader, and that gives them something to overcome later in the story. So I think there's all kinds of good uses for realism, but I more mean in the portrayal for sure, because you're right. If they're too human, if they were just a normal person, they'd be really boring at best and really dumb and dead really fast at worst, right? And that will happen to the majority of people, because and you don't have to be a dumb person to make dumb decisions. Everybody would make dumb decisions in that scenario.
People. Yeah, smart people make dumb
everybody.
decisions. Yeah,
all the time. So I also think that's somewhere where dialogue is probably the most important thing. Like if conversations sound real, I'll pretty much believe anything else you tell me is happening in the story. Like, but that's for me anyway. I don't know about you guys, how much like dialogue plays into that portrayal of character, how important it is to character development.
I love it. Some of what I do in Dopefoot and some of my favorite stories are the ones where the characters don't just carry the weight of the storytelling, but they actually like set the mood. As a writer, I could be like, someone went to a land of fantasy and strange things happened. Or you could set up the situation where this guy calls his best friend and he's like, man, the craziest shit just happened to me. Can I tell you what happened? And then it's not about me as a writer convincing the reader that this land of fantasy exists. This character believes it. He's playing it straight. And, I think, situations like that work really well. I like it when the characters not only dispense the information, do the world building, but they, kind of create the history. I guess that's part of world building as well.
Sure. But some of that can be done through dialogue.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what do you think?
I mean, I think you guys are right. Like, people talking like normal, like they believe what's going on around them, and they're just, being that kind of real with each other. That is such an easy way to sell me personally on whatever the fuck is going on.
Yeah. Storytelling is something that is a really powerful. Storytelling is powerful. That's why we do it. That's why we love it. So why not make your characters storytellers as well? A lot of Dopefoot actually happens around campfires. There are people sitting in circles, maybe smoking a joint, which is a metaphorical, symbolic campfire, telling stories. And these stories seem like disparate little vignettes until they all start falling together in a tapestry. a jigsaw puzzle that reveals a more textured, a more nuanced, layered image eventually,
Yeah, right. Okay. What was the best line in The Mist, do you think? Was it the shit went out line, or
gotta be?
I mean, what's your top like 3?
I mean, I don't even know if I remember any of the any other line of dialogue as well as I remember that one.
Right.
What is the little the Shermanator? Doesn't he say something goofy when he's like heading out? I'm telling you, man. I can't tell you 2 other exact lines of dialogue. That's the only
Nothing
one.
gets seared in there quite as good.
I mean, I think the wife says "be nice" when they're approaching the neighbor they don't like, whose tree is falling. She says "be nice."
Well, she also tells him to sue him, so you get mixed message. She
But
literally
do it
does.
nicely.
She starts the conversation with "be nice," and then she ends it with like, "Maybe you should sue him." I'm just saying.
But The Mist is beyond dialogue, though. You don't remember I mean, except for the ones that you love. It really is situational. Much of it depends on seeing through the character's eyes, or at least sitting on their shoulders. I think is a more accurate way of putting it. You see what they see, but you also see the things that they don't notice, and that it doesn't make you omniscient. But it gives you an edge on your characters, and it makes you invested in their journey.
It's true. There is that one other line where that old lady throws the can of peas at our false prophet, and she says some line about "they did it in the Bible, right?" That is a great line.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And she's like, "I got lots of peas," but she's just straight stone that lady. Showed the first cracks in her armor. Do you remember any quotes, Jeremy, by chance? You did bring up the degree one, which I was laughing at too. I was like, what's this guy's problem?
I mean, that was good. He really... I don't know what his deal is.
He was fired up about that.
Oh, there is a good line that I'm now kind of remembering. The neighbor says it right before he leaves. Like the dad, he's like, well, what if you're wrong? What if there really is something in the mist? And he said he has some really good, like, smart ass yet nihilistic response that just shuts him up. He's like, well, then I guess. What does he say? I don't remember. But I remember.
Well,
him
then I
being
guess
like,
the joke's on me or something.
Oh yeah, it's something like that. It was something like that. And you know what? We don't know what happened to them, do we? That's
they just kind of vanish.
We don't know what happened to them. We know what happened to the guy who tied the string around him, but we do not know what happened to the 4 or 5 skeptics. So there's another more fodder for the remake. Oh my god!
Exactly.
We didn't see them. We didn't see them on the rescue buses. So I have a feeling that they did not fare well either, but I am very curious now that I think about it. You see how the mist is like the gift that keeps on giving, because even though we'll never get these movies I'm asking for, they kind of like exist in our imagination.
And now we don't know for sure if they killed off all the black people at once.
Exactly.
We can
So
hope
that's
that
nice.
We can hope that didn't happen. We can hope that didn't happen. Yeah, they sure made it feel like it happened, but it might not have.
It maybe didn't,
Speaking of the importance of thematic elements in your story, I think we were speaking of that at one point or another. How can you... So we were talking earlier about the military as a sort of representation of something that the film wanted to say, about the military, something thematic directly tied to the story through these characters. In that instance, I do wonder how important, does the thematic element of like the military characters, is it truly taking precedent if you spend no time ingratiating them with anyone in the grocery store or showing that fear more actively? All we ever see is them huddling off by themselves, which is kind of what we assume the military does sometimes. Like they're gonna stay over there and they're not gonna talk about what's happening.
Sure. Was
But,
it
like,
too on the nose? You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
They feel so little like real people that we
So,
aren't.
so did they
spending any
stick
time
to a
with them.
message? Did they stick to a message over showing something that could have been really rich storytelling fodder? You know, did we miss out on a little side tangent like these other ones we're talking about? The woman who left for her children, the skeptics who tied themselves together in a line and left.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, you kind of have to wonder because how much could that have added to the story? Then that's where it felt a little bit like, thematically speaking, they were trying to have a little, like maybe 2 or 3 too many conversations. You know, they were having this small town blue collar versus white collar city people. They were having this religious, like 3 different religious debates. They were having the human conundrum of like going out against the unknown and not, right? They're having this whole conundrum with like, oh, my kid's mom is probably dead, but don't worry, I found a surrogate mom who's gonna like cuddle with him for the rest of the movie, even though they just met. It's just like, hey, you're rolling this whole story, just hold my kid. I got shit to do.
It's interesting because, you know, it has me wondering, you know, did Darabont become a little preachy? Did he step over into didacticism for just a minute, you know, when he did this, you know, or did he kind of like trick us into being preachy? Because he sets up this scenario where, like, you didn't show us anything we haven't seen before. You didn't tell us anything that we haven't seen before, until you kind of like peel back the layers, you know, because there is enough left in our minds to wonder if we saw things clearly the first time, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe.
What do you think, Jeremy? Over
well, I
thematic?
mean,
Do they hit? Do they land?
I think, you know, there are things that hit, things that don't. Just kind of sprinkled all throughout the movie. I mean, like the military guys, they do bug me, especially if they're supposed to be representing something, because like we do just only see them like sitting in a corner or whatever until it's time for somebody to actually talk to them or whatever.
They're basically NPCs in a video game. Like you have to walk over and select
just
them.
like, I think if that's something that you wanted to be a message in the movie of how like the government is ineffectual, like then show them being actively ineffectual instead of just sitting in a corner being sorry, we can't help, we're a metaphor.
It would have been nice to sit on one of their shoulders. I mean, we kind of do. You know, there's the one
orders.
There's the one dude who has the town ties, you know, and we do kind of see him separating from the group. But you're right. You know, it was definitely a missed opportunity not allowing us to sit on one of the other soldiers' shoulders and kind of get more of a window into their position. You know, they weren't generals, they weren't policymakers, they were kids, you know, caught up in something completely out of their control. And then it's kind of like, well, we represent, you know, the army and safety and the protection of America in the face of foreign and domestic adversaries. You know, they were really ill-equipped to be in that position. You know, at the same time, like a 4-star general could have crumbled in this position. Either way, I do agree. You know, there were missed opportunities. At the same time, you know, you're already pointing out, that crams in so much in such a short amount of time. I mean, yeah, we can. It's almost like Monday morning quarterbacking, where it could be like, okay, this part really didn't hit. So if only he had spent less time with like the old lady and then spent more time with these guys and still kept it into 90 minutes, you know, who knows what could have been. But I do see what you're saying. You know, do you stop at a heavy-handed archetype, or do you go a step further and give this archetype a reason to exist at all? You know, go beyond the 2-dimensional. And how easy is that?
It's not easy to do it successfully at all. And this movie still does it relatively successfully, all things told. Jeremy, did you want to add something before I ask my follow-up?
Nah, go for it.
Oh, okay. You looked like you were going to say something.
I always look like that.
I do. Well, that's accurate. I do think that a big part of anything we're griping about in this film, though, is something that was basically taken out of a longer form and converted into the film format, which we've talked
Absolutely.
about tons on this show. You know, they're two different mediums. They're interpreted through completely different lenses, and it's apples to oranges, even on books to movies that are like really intentional about being faithful. I mean, this movie is faithful.
No
I
one
think, in a lot
says
of ways.
the movie was better. No one ever says the movie was better. And the reason that The Exorcist is so good is because the novelist wrote the screenplay. When you have these rare occasions where you can say like they are equally awesome, in general, you never say that the adaptation, the cinematic adaptation, excelled beyond the literary source. It's so rare.
It's super rare. But it's also true that more people are likely to see the cinematic version of everything than they are to read. So there's also sort of a cultural connectivity that comes with the cinematic form. And there's so much other things to it that makes it a completely different interpretation. But there is some balance there where you find out the right line of how much to have of the book, how much is your story, and how much are you willing to change it in order to tell the story that's important for you to tell. Because I imagine anytime you're doing an adaptation or a novelization, as you've done, Josh, like you're definitely putting your own touch on it, right?
Sure.
But you have to do that in a way that honors the source material to a sufficient degree, like for yourself as a creator first, and then I don't know if you owe anything to anyone else. I guess not.
Well,
like a good example from. Sorry, I just want to say too, like,
yeah,
an example that comes to my mind that illustrates this better than I am right now is like Frankenstein. I think was a good example of this by Del Toro recently. It's very different from the book in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways that I don't agree with. Jeremy, Travis, and I already hashed this out pretty thoroughly in our Ubers drunkenly after StokerCon every night. But I do think Del Toro took the pieces of Frankenstein that he loved, and he wanted to tell the story of those pieces, and that's the story that we got. And it came out like respectful enough of the source material that the changes felt like part of the story. I think that's one of the places where I've seen it walked pretty well.
Can I make a comment about Del Toro's Frankenstein? May I interject?
Please.
I do not remember how that movie ended.
That's fair. I don't know if I do either.
Right?
But I remember scenes from it. I
remember how Frankenstein ends. I remember it kind of like dovetailing and converging, but it's all just a blur. I didn't mean to interrupt you earlier. Sure. I love that you made that connection to Frankenstein for exactly because it let me do that zinger. But there is a bit of lore. There is a bit of lore with The Mist that I don't know if you guys are familiar with. Apparently, and I can't speak to the validity of it, but the lore is that Darabont needed the studio to let him have carte blanche when it came to the ending, that he was going to have his way, that there was going to be no discussion about, hey, a divisive ending like this could sink the battleship. He said, my way or the highway. Apparently, he got Stephen King's thumbs up. I don't know if it was before or after, but apparently either Darabont heard this or Stephen King is actually quoted as having said this, but that he loved it. Thought it was amazing. Did more than just do. Oh my God. It didn't just do it justice. It kind of like elevated it. And I think it's important to talk about the actual ending of the Mist novella because it's not the same, but it could have been. The Mist novella essentially just ends before they run out of gas. So it's not that he changed the ending of the Mist novella. He just went another 4 or 5 hours down the road.
That's pretty cool. I do like that. That's a good example of like, and that's what I was trying to say too, is you can tell when a writer has true respect and like reverence for the source material, they're making the movie because they loved the book. You can always really, I think that's usually the case, but I think there's a difference between like, oh, I'd love to make a movie about that. That would be really cool. I enjoy that book. And like, I fucking love this book, you know? And that's how it felt watching Frankenstein. That is how it feels watching The Mist. I think he loved this story, you know? And you can see it. It meant a lot to him on a like moral and philosophical level. Jeremy?
Well, you know, I think even when it comes to like real labors of love, there is this fundamental like problem that needs to be solved when you adapt a book to basically any other medium. Whereas, like, you can take every single action and every single piece of dialogue from that book, and you are still removing almost all of the book in the form of the narration, the descriptions, and you have to fill that in with something that is not always like a comparable fit. It's not always very possible. Like even when you do have, say, the writer contributing to the screenplay of the adaptation, sometimes you end up with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie.
That's true.
Sometimes you get that. And Douglas Adams is my favorite writer in the whole wide world. Sorry, both of you writers.
It's fair.
No, it's fine.
It's fair.
Yeah.
I can't compete with Douglas.
Yeah.
He's dead,
And
though. Like, if he is alive,
is
like,
dead.
watch out, you know?
Yeah, watch out. But, you know.
I mean, I could compete
Just
with him.
seems-
I would lose, but I could compete if he'd agree to a duel. How would you challenge a writer to a writer duel?
Jeez, I don't know. I guess I would set up a scenario and give them 30 minutes to come up with a 2,000 word micro monologue short story.
Okay, but like, how do you get yourself in the scenario where you have the ability to tell them that? Are you just cold emailing people and be like, do it?
I
Or
guess.
what?
I mean, how would you do it? Maybe I just don't understand the fundamental basics of the question.
I'm trying to
like
think of
physically,
like,
how are you initiating the challenge, or what is the challenge?
yes, Jeremy, exactly.
gotcha.
How are you? Yeah,
What?
no, I love the challenge, Josh. I'm going to steal that one for my duels because I hadn't thought that far ahead. Jeremy, how like the equivalent of the backhanded glove slap?
Oh, I gotcha. Jeremy.
What's the writer equivalent of that?
Now, the writer equivalent of that is, I would say, based on, we'll call it personal experience. You show up at a bar. That's step one.
Okay.
Find a writer there.
Yes.
There is one.
Okay.
Yeah, there just is one. Find a bar. There's a writer in there.
It's usually that's pretty accurate.
And then you start talking shit loudly about Lord of the Rings. And honestly, you don't even have to then like challenge
Yes.
them. They will fist fight you in the parking lot.
Can I change my answer?
Yes, Josh.
Yes.
What's your answer?
Okay, instead of slapping with a glove, I would slap with my most recent book and let the other author do the same.
There you go. And
Oh,
just
it's
it's
very sporting.
so it's like is it like power slap where you guys slap until one goes down?
No, it's just one. It's just one, you know,
One
but it's
slap.
like, you know, maybe the most recent thing you wrote was, you know, a 100,000 word novel, and the other person wrote a short story, you know, in an anthology. You know, would you, but again, would you use the whole anthology, or would you just have to like remove the actual pages? Probably just remove the actual pages. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
like,
probably the pages unless you edited it.
yeah. So that would be the flex. Is like, look at this chunk that I like just, you know, dropped on the universe. What have you got to show? Oh, I have this 3,000 word, you know.
I'm gonna order my latest short story, and since I own the rights to it, I'll print that shit in hardback.
Ooh.
I'm gonna fucking
Special
smash it, bro.
edition.
Yeah,
Special
exactly.
edition.
Special edition for Josh's face.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I'm gonna do.
That's why it's always important to have some hardcovers on hand. Okay.
Always important, everybody, just in case someone challenges you to an author duel.
Yes.
Oh man, that's too good. The first thing that came to my mind was, when you would be a real dick to your friends and you would put a pencil on like the corner of a table and just like whack it and send it flying.
Yeah, totally.
That's how I'd do it.
That's
just be flinging a pencil at you. So watch out. If you see me, hope you got your sunglasses handy because I'm flinging pencils. But that's only if I want to duel you.
That's true. Now I guess now that we've got the challenging out of the way, what is the challenge?
Right.
Yeah, then now you can go back to my original answer.
You reclaiming that answer.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay. I would like a pick your weapon kind of situation, and then it's sort of akin to the gun duel, how you have a night or two to prepare. You know where you're going to do it, and you know where you're going to meet. So you agree to meet at a reading event. So you have to write something for the reading event by the reading event, and then you meet there and you see whose story hits harder.
I like it.
That does put it in a very specific format, but I feel like it'd be a fun way to do it.
Yeah, it's got a slam
so
poetry vibe to it, where it's like you see what kind of energy, see what hits.
And you did some pretty serious slam poetry, didn't you, Josh?
That was another life. I was at BizarroCon recently, and they have this thing called the Ultimate Bizarro Showdown. And I used to do slam poetry, so I was like, I'm gonna go. I'll impress these guys. No slam poetry, but I'm gonna do some comedy because I'm a kick-ass comic. And God, I bombed so fucking hard. I like,
oh no,
I was, someone really should have pulled me off with a hook. It was
What did
I'm sorry to hear that, man. Bombing.
It's all right, And I mean, they needed someone to like calibrate the scales, I was, one end of the spectrum that night.
Yeah, you needed your opener to go out first.
Exactly. I served my purpose.
Good job. We're proud of you for it.
Thank you.
Well, since we've Jeremy, you've got one. Do you have a challenge?
Yes, I do have a challenge. Okay, mine's more of a war of attrition.
Sure.
You go chapter for chapter, continuing a story between the two of you.
You just see who's still around.
Until one person quits, or oh god, it's Sasquatch. Fuck.
Where?
Until what? Who did that? That's crazy.
Did you guys see him again? Did you see him again?
I seen him.
Could have been a blur in the distance.
I think he went back there.
It's crazy living
chapter
out
for
in the
chapter, man.
It is
crazy,
wild.
Chapter for chapter. I really like that idea.
Chapter for chapter until one person quits or writes a satisfying conclusion.
Okay. So do you have to agree on a word threshold so that somebody doesn't try, so someone doesn't try to just conclude it right away?
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Just I don't know. Do we allow that kind of
end
fuckery?
It in one chapter?
Yeah.
But
somebody would.
Chapter one.
Right. Somebody would.
I would so try. It's good.
All right.
You got me.
I get you, bro. I like that one a lot. Yeah. Well, we're coming up here on 2 hours, everybody. Thank you so much for fermenting some fiction with us.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I love how we all got crunchier. It's great. We all got crunchier towards the end, more like, crazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I know I did. I know I'm like much less controlling of my words now than I was earlier in the thing.
Yeah, that's the whole goal, man. Just trying to be a good vibe show out here and talk about some nerdy shit.
Vaping a lot of beer tonight and getting kind of mush mouth towards the end there. It's all good. I really want to thank you guys before we get close to cutoff time. I do want to thank you guys, having writers on and giving us a chance to both talk about our books and have a fun experience, and talk about these things we enjoy talking about. It's really awesome. It's been a really fun experience. I've probably done 150 podcasts over the past 4 or 5 years, and this is one I will remember the ending. I will remember the ending.
Oh shoot!
Well, we haven't ended it yet, so we'll see
whatever
if we can
it
live
is
up to the hype.
Whatever it is, I will remember it.
Hell yeah! Well, thank you for coming on, brother. We really appreciate you. Before we let you go, one more thing we got to do real quick. We're gonna rate this thing, the Mist. How many drinks or puffs of your vape pen or whatever do you need to enjoy the Mist to its fullest extent? And we'll start with you, Jeremy. We'll end with you, Josh.
Okay. Well, hey. Now there's a lot you could do with a movie like this.
Right.
I think with the sheer I think I'm just gonna have to go anytime somebody dies, you're drinking. Now that does get to be like, I think there's like 50 people in that grocery store, so you will not be okay. But Godspeed, everyone.
Confirmed kills only, or anytime it seems like somebody died?
I mean, if it only seems like somebody died, that's
still a lot. It only takes maybe like 4 people out.
Yeah.
I feel like it actually only removes like 4 or 5 people from the drink total anyway.
Yeah,
But
like there's
what
still
if?
so many, and it's a 2-hour movie. You will hopefully be asleep before the end. I don't know.
You might be. You might not though. Josh, or we'll end with you, Josh. My fermented rating, I guess, would be this. At this point, I think you should just like get pretty high and watch this movie. Because for me, I was laughing at like the dialogue and the character dynamics that used to annoy me. That used to make me grumpy about the movie instead of being allowed to enjoy it. This time, I knew what I was walking into. I no longer expected anything to hold up the way it did when I was a kid. I'm viewing it as a completely different viewer. And I went in with a little, herbal aid to help me loosen up the gears a little bit, and I think I enjoyed it a lot more for that. So grab a puff or 2 of your favorite high getting mechanism, and go ahead have the little ride through the Mist. It's a really good time until it's suddenly not. The sooner you get in there, seems to be, the sooner you get into that Mist, the better it's going to go for you. The God, for whatever reason, wants you to believe and trust in him.
Love it.
Not unlike a Cthulhu Santa Claus. Josh, what do you rate this movie? How many drinks or puffs or whatever?
Sure. Well, my fermented rating for The Mist is that the atmosphere of the viewer should be as close as possible to the actual mist in the movie. So you should do your best to create an actual cloud-like atmosphere around yourself, and by doing so, you will most likely have a panic attack, which will really step it up in those moments that you might want to roll your eyes at. You'll be like you'll be getting heart palpitations, and your arms will be tingling. All right, for real though, if anyone under 18 is listening, I'm not recommending.
Don't do any of that.
Don't do that. Of fermented vape beer. But yeah, I think it'd be great to take in all seriousness, because this is such a serious question. In all seriousness, I think a really big bong hit, where you release your own big cloud, because sometimes if you just get that one big hit, there is like a change, that you'll put the mist into the air and the mist will dissipate, but at the same time, the mist is still there because you are misty and it's in the periphery. So yeah, you only need one hit, but it needs to be one hell of a hit.
Yeah, that should be
that nice cinematic haze.
Yeah, there you go.
Bridge the gap.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. you might be inviting the creatures into your house by doing that, but that's a risk Josh was clearly willing to take, and he turned out fine.
Yeah, open
Josh,
doorways.
where can people find you online, and where can they buy Dopefoot directly from your publisher?
Yeah, for me, I guess Instagram is the place to go these days. I have way more followers on Facebook and the thing that used to be Twitter, but it doesn't matter anymore. I don't have any traction on those whatsoever. So I seem to be making the most of an impact and a connection with people on Instagram. So come check me out there at Joshua_Millican. And yeah, you can get Dopefoot from Mad Axe Media. Just do the Google. It'll send you there, Mad Axe Media, and then Dopefoot, and you'll hop right on the link. And I think if you order it now, you might even get it a few days early, a few days before publication date on June 16th. So
Nice.
Do it. I'm really proud of it. I hope people enjoy it. Like the early readers have been enjoying it. I hope that continues, and I hope we get a chance to do more writing and continue on this creative writing journey that I've been on.
Hell yeah, man. We all hope that as well.
I'm so
thank you, dude. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's great though. That's great. That's what we'd love to see. Thanks for coming out, brother. Really appreciate you.
My pleasure. For real. Thank you.
Hell yeah. I will put all those links in the comments. Jeremy, thanks for fermenting some fiction with me as always. And Fermented folks, we'll see you at the next episode about a week from now. Do like, comment, and subscribe and all that other bullshit. You know the deal by now. But it does help the channel out a lot. So please do that if you like us, if you love us. Go over to Substack and follow us and get us in your inbox. And yeah, join as a subscriber to get deals and shit.
Oh, fuck, it's Bigfoot.
And more non-fuzzy videos of Josh making out with Bigfoot. Thank you so much, everybody.
Little Dopefoot.
Little Dopefoot.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Go learn about him.
What a
Buy the
sweetie.
book. Goodbye.
Later.